All right, welcome. We're jumping right into topic 2.1 for your Islamiyat Paper 1 exam. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the really intense early challenges the first Muslims faced and look at that pivotal migration to Medina that honestly changed everything.
But hey, before we get into it, if you find this explainer is helping you get ready for your exams, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Spotwork Learning. It really helps us make more of this content for you. Okay, let's kick things off with a big question that really gets to the heart of this whole topic. The Prophet's message, right, was all about worshiping one God and being just to people. So, why on earth was this message of peace met with such ferocious opposition from the powerful Quraysh tribe in Mecca?
Well, you see, this hostility didn't just come out of nowhere. It was a direct response to a message that threatened the entire foundation of Meccan society. I mean, the Quraysh had built all their wealth and power around the Kaaba and its 360 idols. It was the hub for pilgrimage, for trade, their whole economy. A call for one God? That wasn't just a religious debate. It was a direct threat to their entire social and economic system. And as more people, especially the youth and the poor, started to embrace Islam, the Quraysh's initial taunts and mockery, well, they quickly turned into systematic, brutal persecution. This wasn't just a disagreement anymore. It became a full-blown campaign to snuff out this new faith before it could even get off the ground. The early Muslims, they faced hardships you and I can barely imagine. They were humiliated in public, they were attacked, and the most vulnerable among them were tortured for their new faith. You know, the Quraysh even tried to bribe the Prophet. They offered him anything he could want: wealth, power, to be made a king, the most beautiful wives, if he would just stop. But he turned down every single offer. The story of Bilal, an Ethiopian slave, just captures the spirit of steadfastness perfectly. His master would drag him out into the scorching desert sun and place this massive, heavy rock on his chest to try and force him to renounce Islam. But through all that agony, Bilal's only response was Ahadun Ahad, one God, one God. It's such a powerful testament to his unwavering faith. And then the pressure cooker was turned all the way up. The Quraysh imposed this brutal 3-year boycott against the Prophet's entire clan, the Banu Hashim, basically for protecting him. They were all trapped in a narrow valley, totally cut off from food and supplies. It's said that the cries of starving children could be heard from Mecca. The boycott only ended when the pact itself was miraculously found inside the Kaaba, completely eaten by termites.
You'd think that after the boycott ended, there'd be a moment of relief, right? But instead, the Prophet was about to face the single most difficult year of his entire mission. It was a time so painful that history remembers it as the al-Huzn.
In one single, devastating year, the Prophet lost the 2 most important pillars of support in his entire life. It left him completely heartbroken and dangerously exposed. So you have this dual loss, this 1-2 punch. The death of Khadija was a deeply personal blow. She was his confidant, his biggest supporter, the very first person to believe in his mission. But the death of his uncle, Abu Talib, that was a political catastrophe. As the head of the clan, Abu Talib's protection was the only thing physically stopping the Quraysh from killing the Prophet. With him gone, that shield was just gone. With the situation in Mecca basically impossible now, a new door opened. For a few years, the Prophet had been meeting with people from a city to the north, called Yathrib. After a series of pledges, the people of Yathrib promised to protect him and to welcome the Muslims. This led to the most critical journey in all of Islamic history, the Hijra. Now, the Hijra wasn't just a trip. This was a high-stakes escape. The Quraysh had hatched this plot to have one man from every tribe strike the Prophet at the same time, making any retaliation impossible. But through divine guidance and some incredibly clever planning, the Prophet slipped away, leaving his brave young cousin Ali as a decoy in his bed, while he and his trusted friend Abu Bakr went into hiding. Take a look at the route they took here. They didn't just head straight north. The plan involved a brilliant misdirection. They first went south to hide in Cave Thawr. Only after the search parties gave up did they take a dangerous, unfamiliar path along the coast, zigzagging the whole way to throw off anyone who might still be looking. The arrival in Yathrib, which would soon be renamed Medina an-Nabi, the city of the Prophet, marked the end of 13 long years of persecution. It was the beginning of a brand new chapter for the entire Muslim community.
So that brings us to a really crucial question. Why was the Hijra so much more than just moving houses? I mean, its significance is so huge that it actually marks the very beginning of the Islamic calendar. Why?
Because it led to the establishment of the Ummah. For the very first time, Muslims weren't this small, persecuted minority just trying to survive. They were now a self-governing community, a brotherhood, where your loyalty wasn't to your tribe, but to your shared faith.
You can see the massive contrast right here. Life in Mecca was about one thing: survival, just enduring as an oppressed minority. But Medina was a chance to build a society from the ground up, a place where Islam could finally be implemented as a complete way of life, with its own laws for social justice and running a state.
So, in short, the Hijra was the absolute game changer. It ensured that Islam would survive and flourish. It gave them a safe haven, a physical state where the message could be protected, practiced in Falm, and from there spread to the rest of the world. Without the Hijra, the fate might very well have been crushed back in Mecca. Okay, finally, let's analyze the Prophet's own response to all this adversity, because this gives us a model for Muslims today, and it's a key part of your AO2 analysis.
His response is such a powerful model for resilience. He showed this profound patience, or sabr, while staying completely firm in his faith. But, and this is crucial, it wasn't just passive waiting. He balanced that deep trust in God with brilliant strategic planning, just like we saw in the meticulous details of the Hijra.
And this principle of mercy is just so central to everything. Even after 13 years of nonstop persecution, of abuse, of attempts on his life, the Prophet's mission was always defined by forgiveness, not by revenge. When he finally returned to Mecca as a victor years later, he offered a general amnesty to the very people who had made his life a misery. And so that leaves us with this final question for you to think about for your AO2 analysis. How can these timeless qualities, patience, mercy, being steadfast, and balancing faith with action, how can they serve as a practical blueprint for Muslims who are facing their own challenges in the modern world?